Is Lewis Hamilton a threat to F1? Ferrari investigates conspiracy plot. A shocking leak from Maranello reveals that Ferrari is immersed in a secret investigation. A massive plot to discredit and oust Lewis Hamilton from the sport. Is it his activism or his technological ambitions, such as the mysterious Project Tachyon, that make him a target? Is the Scuderia fighting for the integrity of Formula One, or has it become just another player in a game of corporate espionage that threatens to expose the dark connections between sport, technology, and global power? The line between competition and conspiracy has never been thinner. The Ferrari Hamilton Sportiva building in Maranello hung with its usual blend of precision and passionate intensity. A shocking leak from Maranello reveals that Ferrari is immersed in a secret investigation. Chairman of Ferrari to discredit the head of the polished Hamilton from the sport. His expression is his activism or his technological ambitions, Fred Vasseur, such as the mysterious Project Benedetto Vigna that make him a CEO of Ferrari, is the Scuderia fighting for the integrity of Formula One. The usual has it become just another player in collaborative corporate espionage was replaced by a rigid silence, the dark punctuated only by the distant technology cooling and global power. A single, line between competition and conspiracy has never been thinner. Its contents shielded from the others, though the sheer weight of its presence was palpable. The air was thick with unspoken questions, and a sense of impending seismic change. Suddenly, Elkan cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping across the faces before him. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice low but firm, "we have received information that will fundamentally alter our immediate strategic outlook. It concerns external movements related to Lewis Hamilton." A ripple of unease, quickly suppressed, spread through the room. Hamilton, despite being a competitor, was an almost mythical figure in the sport, and any movement concerning him was significant. Vasseur shifted in his seat, his usual unflappable demeanor momentarily fractured by a flicker of surprise. This was not a discussion about car performance, budget caps, or driver contracts. This felt far more complex, more personal, and potentially far more disruptive than anything they had anticipated. The silence in the room stretched, heavy with anticipation. Fred Vasseur, usually quick to interject with a technical point or a strategic consideration, remained uncharacteristically quiet, his eyes fixed on John Elkan. Benedetto Vigna, ever the pragmatist, leaned forward slightly, his expression betraying a keen analytical curiosity. Elkan, seemingly allowing the gravity of his opening statement to settle, finally picked up a single page from the unmarked dossier. He didn't read it aloud, but scanned it intently, his brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. "The information," Elkan began, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "suggests a highly coordinated, well-funded initiative. Its objective is clear: to systematically undermine Lewis Hamilton's current position within Mercedes, extending even to his public perception and his long-term career trajectory." Vasseur's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. This wasn't about a competitor trying to outdevelop Mercedes on track. This was something far more insidious. "This isn't merely about a rival team poaching a driver or standard competitive intelligence," Elkan continued, his gaze now directed at Vasseur. "This delves into areas that are unprecedented. We have evidence of targeted misinformation campaigns being prepared, aimed at discrediting his philanthropic efforts and even questioning the authenticity of his recent technological ventures." The revelation of technological ventures hung in the air, a subtle nod to the highly confidential rumors that had been circulating in the upper echelons of the sport. Whispers of Hamilton's unusual collaborations and groundbreaking, albeit unconfirmed, engineering projects outside of the usual F1 framework. Vigna, whose background in semiconductors and digital technologies made him particularly attuned to such matters, raised an eyebrow. "Are we speaking of industrial espionage, Mr. Chairman, or something more character-driven?" he inquired, his voice devoid of emotion. Elkan met his gaze squarely. "Both, Mr. Vigna. It appears to be a multi-pronged assault. On one hand, there are attempts to disrupt his professional relationships within Mercedes. On the other, there are efforts to erode his public image, leveraging existing social media biases and creating new narratives. The source of this initiative is highly sophisticated, with resources that suggest state-level backing or an extremely powerful corporate entity. It's not just about removing Hamilton from a seat, it's about neutralizing his influence entirely." The weight of this intelligence settled upon the room, shifting the atmosphere from mere tension to outright alarm. This was a direct threat not just to a competitor, but to the very ecosystem of the sport, and Ferrari, by virtue of receiving this intelligence, was now unwillingly drawn into its shadowy depths. A palpable sense of dread began to permeate the room. Fred Vasseur, a man accustomed to the cutthroat world of Formula One, felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. This wasn't just about winning on track. This was about something far more sinister, an unseen battle playing out in the shadows. "Mr. Chairman," Vasseur began, his voice tight, "if this information is accurate, it has profound implications for the entire sport. It's an attack not just on Lewis Hamilton, but on the very integrity of fair competition." Elkan nodded slowly, his gaze hardening. Precisely, Fred. And the most unsettling aspect is the sheer sophistication and reach of this operation. We have identified a network of shell corporations, registered across multiple offshore jurisdictions, funneling significant capital to digital influence firms specializing in perception management. These firms have a history of working on high-stakes political campaigns, not sporting rivalries. Their methods include creating deepfake audio and video to simulate damaging conversations, deploying sophisticated bot networks to amplify negative narratives across social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram, and even planting seemingly innocuous but subtly biased articles in fringe online publications that then get picked up by more mainstream outlets. He paused, letting the full weight of this sink in. We're talking about a level of psychological warfare that far exceeds traditional competitive intelligence. Vigna, ever the strategist, spoke up. This scale of operation, Chairman, points to a clear objective beyond merely disrupting a competitor. It suggests an attempt to remove a significant figure from a position of influence, perhaps even to deter future technological advancements or social activism he represents. He glanced subtly at the mention of Hamilton's philanthropic efforts in the dossier. Such resources would typically only be deployed if the perceived threat was substantial, extending beyond mere on-track rivalry. Have we identified any potential beneficiaries of Hamilton's removal, beyond the obvious competitive advantages for rival teams? Elkan's eyes narrowed. That is the question we are now actively investigating. While rival teams would benefit, the sheer scale and nature of this operation suggest a deeper, more systemic motivation. It could be linked to entities threatened by his advocacy for sustainable technologies, or perhaps even by his growing influence in areas outside of motorsport. The intelligence suggests a strong desire to silence a voice, not just sideline a driver. Our sources, who have proven to be exceptionally reliable in the past regarding sensitive industry information, indicate that initial phases of this operation have already commenced, subtly, under the radar. They are testing the waters, gauging public reaction to nascent, negative narratives about his perceived distractions outside of racing. The room now felt less like a strategic planning session and more like a war council, with an invisible enemy lurking in the digital shadows, targeting one of the sport's most iconic figures. A hushed, almost stunned silence followed Elkan's chilling revelations. The implications stretched far beyond the confines of Maranello, touching upon the very fabric of global sports and public perception. Fred Vasseur, initially focused on the immediate competitive threat, now considered the broader ramifications. Chairman, he stated, his voice now laced with a rare intensity, if this is accurate, then our duty extends beyond simply protecting Ferrari's interests. This is an attack on the integrity of Formula One itself. Allowing such tactics to go unchallenged would set a dangerous precedent for every athlete, every public figure. Elkan nodded slowly, acknowledging Vasseur's point. Precisely, Fred. And this is why we are discussing it here, in this room, with the utmost confidentiality. Our immediate priority is to understand the full scope of this operation, to identify the architects behind it. Our intelligence suggests that some of these digital influence firms have advanced capabilities in AI-driven content generation. They can create articles, social media posts, and even short video clips that are virtually indistinguishable from genuine content, but subtly embedded with negative framing or outright falsehoods. They are designed to spread virally, leveraging existing societal divisions and confirmation biases. Benedetto Vigna, ever the tech visionary, interjected, this sounds like a sophisticated astroturfing operation, designed to make manufactured public opinion appear organic. The use of AI for deepfakes and algorithmic amplification is particularly concerning. It implies a significant investment in technology and human resources. Mr. Chairman, have we considered the possibility that this might be connected to larger geopolitical or economic rivalries, where Lewis Hamilton's prominence and advocacy, particularly in areas like sustainability and diversity, make him a target? His public persona extends far beyond motorsport. Elkan steepened his gaze. That very question is at the heart of our ongoing investigation. Our sources indicate that the funding streams, while incredibly convoluted, eventually lead back to entities with highly diversified interests, touching upon energy, finance, and even defense. The target seems to be not just his racing career, but his broader influence as a global icon. Think of his partnership with Mission 44, his outspoken views on environmental issues, his recent forays into fashion and entertainment. His platform is immense. Disrupting that platform could serve a multitude of agendas far removed from the racetrack. A ripple of alarm went through the room. The sheer scale and multifaceted nature of the alleged plot painted a grim picture. This wasn't just a clandestine attack by a rival team. It was a well-orchestrated campaign by powerful, shadowy forces, utilizing cutting-edge technology to dismantle the reputation of one of the world's most recognizable figures. And Ferrari, by virtue of receiving this intelligence, was now in a precarious position, holding knowledge that could shake the very foundations of the sport. The ethical dilemma was immense: to expose it and risk drawing the ire of powerful entities, or to remain silent and tacitly condone such egregious tactics. The weight of that decision hung heavy in the opulent Maranello conference room on this pivotal June afternoon. The air in the Ferrari conference room, once filled with the scent of fine Italian leather and fresh espresso, now felt charged with the bitter tang of intrigue and the unspoken weight of a moral quandary. John Elkann steepled his fingers, his gaze sweeping over the faces of his most trusted lieutenants. "The immediate question, then, is not if this is happening, but what our response should be," he stated, his voice devoid of emotion, a true reflection of the immense pressure he now faced. "We are in possession of sensitive intelligence. This information, if it were to become public without proper handling, could destabilize the entire ecosystem of Formula One, not to mention ignite a geopolitical firestorm depending on the ultimate architects." Fred Vasseur, ever the protector of his team and the sport's integrity, spoke with conviction. "Chairman, we cannot sit idly by. If these tactics are being employed against Lewis, they could eventually be turned against any prominent figure, any team. This goes beyond competitive rivalry. It's a threat to the very essence of fair play. Our obligation, as a pillar of this sport, is to expose such malicious actions." Benedetto Vigna, however, offered a more cautious, pragmatic perspective. "With all due respect, Fred, exposure without irrefutable, publicly digestible proof carries immense risk. Accusations of this magnitude, without undeniable evidence, could easily be spun as sour grapes or a desperate attempt to discredit a competitor. Furthermore, to directly confront entities with seemingly unlimited resources and a penchant for clandestine operations could invite severe repercussions for Ferrari. Our primary focus must remain on the Scuderia's performance and long-term stability. This is not a battle for us to fight alone, nor is it one we are equipped to win in the shadows against such an opponent." Elkann listened intently, weighing the passionate moral stance against the cold, hard realities of corporate and geopolitical power. "Benedetto has a point, Fred. While our moral compass points towards exposure, the strategic implications for Ferrari are significant. Our initial intelligence, obtained through highly unconventional channels, is sensitive and not easily verifiable through public means without compromising our sources. We need more concrete, legally admissible evidence if we are to approach the FIA or any relevant law enforcement agency. To do so prematurely would be akin to throwing a stone at a Goliath, with potentially devastating consequences for us." He then revealed another layer of complexity. "Our sources also indicate that one of the immediate objectives of this perception management campaign is to sow discord between Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, perhaps even subtly nudging him towards an exit. The narrative being crafted revolves around his distractions and divided loyalties due to his outside ventures and advocacy. Ironically, a premature public reaction from us could inadvertently feed into that very narrative, making it appear as if internal divisions are indeed real, and that even other teams perceive him as a liability. The realization that their response, no matter how well-intentioned, could inadvertently play into the hands of the very forces they sought to counter, hung heavy in the air. The shocking twist was not just that someone wanted Hamilton out, but that Ferrari was now caught in a dangerous ethical and strategic dilemma, tasked with navigating a labyrinthine plot where every move carried immense, unseen risks. The weight of the ethical and strategic dilemma pressed down on the room like the humid summer air of Manuel B. Gonnet outside. John Elkann, acknowledging the complexity of the situation, pushed a button on the table, and a discreet, secure holographic display shimmered into existence, projecting a complex web of interconnected nodes. Our initial analysis of the funding pathways, while convoluted, suggests a significant portion of the capital originates from holding companies linked to a consortium with vast interests in emerging technologies and, intriguingly, a strong lobbying presence within specific regulatory bodies that oversee both advanced materials and intellectual property rights globally. He pointed to a particularly dense cluster of nodes on the display. This group has a history of aggressive acquisitions and silencing dissenting voices that could impede their technological monopolies. Lewis Hamilton's increasing involvement in sustainable tech, and particularly his recent Project Tachyon rumors, which, while unconfirmed by Mercedes, align perfectly with the types of disruptive technologies this consortium would seek to control or eliminate, make him a direct threat to their long-term objectives. The revelation that Hamilton's innovative side projects were not just a hobby, but potentially the very reason for the orchestrated attack, sent another ripple of cold understanding through the room. Fred Vasseur, seeing the bigger picture unfold, clenched his jaw. So, this isn't just about F1. This is about controlling future industries, and Lewis, with his global platform and genuine interest in sustainable innovation, is an inconvenient figure. It's a corporate hit, thinly veiled as a competitive maneuver. Precisely, Elkann confirmed, his voice grave. Our intelligence indicates that the perception management campaign is designed to erode his credibility and influence, making any future ventures he spearheads appear less legitimate, less impactful. If he's perceived as distracted or unreliable, it diminishes his ability to champion disruptive technologies that might compete with established players. The goal is to isolate him, to remove his powerful voice from the public discourse, not just to remove him from a Mercedes cockpit. Benedetto Vigna, his analytical mind already processing the new data, interjected, "Chairman, if this is truly about technological control, then our unique position in the automotive world, particularly with Ferrari's own advancements in EV and sustainable luxury, could make us a target in the future. Remaining silent now, while strategically safer in the short term, could create a dangerous precedent for us down the line. Perhaps a more nuanced approach is required. Not a direct confrontation, but a subtle counterintelligence operation designed to gather more evidence, to expose the network without revealing our hand prematurely." He glanced at Elkann, a challenging glint in his eye. "We have our own highly capable intelligence resources, built over decades of competitive vigilance. Could we leverage them to unmask the true architects, to turn their own weapons against them?" The idea, audacious as it was, sparked a flicker of interest in Elkann's eyes. The fight for Ferrari's future, and perhaps the sport's integrity, was about to move from the race track to the shadowy world of corporate espionage. The weight of the ethical and strategic dilemma pressed down on the room like the humid summer air of Manuel B. Gonnet, Buenos Aires province. John Elkann, acknowledging the complexity of the situation, pushed a button on the table, and a discreet, secure holographic display shimmered into existence, projecting a complex web of interconnected nodes. Our initial analysis of the funding pathways, while convoluted, suggests a significant portion of the capital originates from holding companies linked to a consortium with vast interests in emerging technologies and, intriguingly, a strong lobbying presence within specific regulatory bodies that oversee both advanced materials and intellectual property rights globally. He pointed to a particularly dense cluster of nodes on the display. This group has a history of aggressive acquisitions and silencing dissenting voices that could impede their technological monopolies. Lewis Hamilton's increasing involvement in sustainable tech, and particularly his recent Project Tachyon rumors, which, while unconfirmed by Mercedes, align perfectly with the types of disruptive technologies this consortium would seek to control or eliminate, make him a direct threat to their long-term objectives. The revelation that Hamilton's innovative side projects were not just a hobby, but potentially the very reason for the orchestrated attack, sent another ripple of cold understanding through the room. Fred Vasseur, seeing the bigger picture unfold, clenched his jaw. So, this isn't just about F1. This is about controlling future industries, and Lewis, with his global platform and genuine interest in sustainable innovation, is an inconvenient figure. It's a corporate hit, thinly veiled as a competitive maneuver. "Precisely," Elkann confirmed, his voice grave. "Our intelligence indicates that the perception management campaign is designed to erode his credibility and influence, making any future ventures he spearheads appear less legitimate, less impactful. If he's perceived as distracted or unreliable, it diminishes his ability to champion disruptive technologies that might compete with established players. The goal is to isolate him, to remove his powerful voice from the public discourse, not just to remove him from a Mercedes cockpit." Benedetto Vigna, his analytical mind already processing the new data, interjected, "Chairman, if this is truly about technological control, then our unique position in the automotive world, particularly with Ferrari's own advancements in EV and sustainable luxury, could make us a target in the future. Remaining silent now, while strategically safer in the short term, could create a dangerous precedent for us down the line. Perhaps a more nuanced approach is required. Not a direct confrontation, but a subtle counterintelligence operation designed to gather more evidence, to expose the network without revealing our hand prematurely." He glanced at Elkann, a challenging glint in his eye. "We have our own highly capable intelligence resources, built over decades of competitive vigilance. Could we leverage them to unmask the true architects, to turn their own weapons against them?" The idea, audacious as it was, sparked a flicker of interest in Elkann's eyes. The fight for Ferrari's future, and perhaps the sport's integrity, was about to move from the race track to the shadowy world of corporate espionage, with a distinct scent of a silent war brewing on this Tuesday afternoon in Maranello, while the sun set over the distant pampas. The subtle scent of the distant pampas, carried on a gentle breeze, did little to alleviate the tension in the Ferrari conference room. John Elkann, his gaze unwavering, finally spoke, addressing Vigna's audacious proposal. "Benedetto, your suggestion holds merit. A direct, overt confrontation is simply not feasible at this stage. But a covert counterintelligence operation, leveraging our internal capabilities and discrete external contacts, that could provide the verifiable evidence we need without exposing Ferrari to undue risk." He paused, a flicker of steely resolve in his eyes. We will allocate a dedicated, highly specialized team to this. They will operate under the strictest secrecy, reporting directly to you, Benedetto, and through you, to me. Their objective: to peel back the layers of these shell corporations, to trace the digital breadcrumbs, and to definitively identify the individuals and entities orchestrating this campaign against Lewis Hamilton. Fred Vasseur, though still advocating for transparency, understood the necessity of this covert approach. We must also consider the human element, Chairman. While we gather evidence, we cannot ignore the potential impact of these perception management tactics on Lewis himself. Even if he's unaware of the full scope, a constant barrage of subtle negativity can be corrosive. Perhaps a discreet, indirect signal of support from our end, a subtle show of solidarity within the paddock, without revealing our intelligence. Elkann considered this. A valid point, Fred. We are not his allies in competition, but we are united by the principles of fair play. We will explore indirect ways to subtly reinforce the value of genuine innovation and integrity within the sport, perhaps through our own public messaging, without directly addressing the Hamilton situation. Our focus must remain on the long game. This isn't just about Lewis Hamilton's immediate future. It's about safeguarding the future of innovation and ethical conduct in high-stakes global industries. Ferrari, as a symbol of excellence and integrity, has a responsibility to play its part, even if it's from the shadows for now. As the holographic display dissolved and the room's hushed conversations resumed, a new, unspoken mandate settled over the Ferrari leadership. The shocking twist was not just that someone wanted Hamilton out, nor even that Ferrari possessed this explosive information. The true twist was that the legendary Scuderia, on this quiet Tuesday afternoon in Maranello, was now silently embarking on a covert mission of corporate espionage, not just for its own gain, but to uncover a conspiracy that threatened to corrupt the very soul of global competition. The engines of their race cars might be silent, but a far more dangerous game had just begun.